Hey there. Ready to unpack some serious digital infrastructure action? We're diving deep into Protean Egov Technologies Limited today.
Always exciting to see a company playing such a pivotal role in India's digital transformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're talking about the folks behind PAN cards, the backbone of the national pension system, and now even the ambitious ONDC network. We've got their latest quarterly reports and presentations, so let's get into it. First things first. For anyone just joining the conversation, can you give us a quick snapshot of what Protean Egov Technologies Limited is all about?
Think of them as the architects behind India's e-governance landscape. They've got their hands in everything from tax and pension services to identity solutions like e-sign and eKYC. But here's where it gets interesting. They're not just stopping at the basics. Protean's got their sights set on some seriously cutting-edge areas like open digital ecosystems, cloud and InfoSec services, and even expanding their expertise internationally.
Okay, so they're not just playing in the sandbox. They're building it. Now let's talk numbers.
Yeah.
What jumped out at you from their latest financial reports?
Well, the second quarter of fiscal year 2025 was a strong one for Protean. They reported a 12% quarter-on-quarter revenue growth, hitting INR 220 crore. What fueled this growth? Their bread-and-butter tax services and pension services, up by a solid 22% and 7% respectively.
So they're clearly doing something right in their core businesses. But what about their market share? Are they holding their own?
Not just holding their own, they're actually gaining ground. Their market share in tax services jumped from 51.6% in the same quarter last year to a whopping 55.4% this year.
Wow, that's a serious power move.
And their profitability, are they just growing or are they growing smart?
They're definitely growing smart profit. After tax, PAT saw a healthy 33% jump quarter-on-quarter, reaching INR 28 crore. What's even more impressive is their rock-solid balance sheet over INR 750 crore in cash and cash equivalents with zero debt. Talk about a company with a strong foundation. It sounds like they're in a prime position to fuel their ambitious plans. Okay, let's zoom in on some of their key segments, starting with tax services. What's driving this impressive growth? It's not like everyone suddenly decided to file their taxes early, right?
Well, there's definitely a bit of a post-election boost happening here. Remember all those new government schemes that rolled out? They seem to have sparked a surge in demand for PAN cards and related services, giving Protean's revenue a nice little bump.
So riding the wave of government initiatives. Smart move. They also mentioned that online PAN issuance actually surpassed offline issuance for the first time. What's fueling this shift?
It's a clear sign that India is going digital in a big way. More and more people are opting for the convenience of online services, and Protean's made it super user-friendly to apply for a PAN card online, which is a huge factor.
Makes total sense. Speaking of the future of PAN cards, they mentioned something about a PAN 2.0 tender in their previous earnings call. Any updates on that front?
The tender's still in the early stages, so the specifics are under wraps for now. What's interesting, though, is that the tax department is going with a tender-based approach this time around. It seems they're aiming for a level playing field and tighter governance.
So it'll be fascinating to see how this unfolds and what it means for the competition. Now, on to pension services. Their subscriber growth has been pretty eye-popping, hasn't it?
Absolutely. They reported a 40% quarter-on-quarter growth in new pension subscribers. And that's not just individuals signing up. We're talking about corporate additions, too. This tells me they've got a strong market presence, and they're riding the wave of the government's push to get more people enrolled in pension schemes.
It's like they're building a safety net for India's future, one subscriber at a time.
And speaking of reaching new markets, they launched the NPS Vatsaya, a pension scheme specifically designed for minors. That's some serious and forward thinking. What do you think sparked that decision? It's a bold move and a smart one. It shows they're not just focusing on the present, but actively planning for the future generations. Getting kids financially literate and enrolled in pension schemes early on is a game changer for long-term financial security. And with over 25,000 subscribers already, it's clear they're onto something big.
Talk about planting seeds for a secure future. And they're not just innovating with new schemes, they also revamped their MPS and APY mobile app this quarter. What's the story there?
Well, they're all about enhancing the user experience. Think smoother navigation, more features, basically making it easier and more convenient for people to manage their pensions on the go.
So taking user centricity to a whole new level. Smart. Now let's switch gears to identity services. They mentioned a decline in revenue in their last quarterly report. What's the deal there?
It's a bit of a double whammy situation. First, remember that Aadhaar PAN linkage deadline last year. It created a huge spike in demand. So naturally, this year's numbers look a bit lower in comparison. And second, there's increased competition in the market, especially for basic e-sign services, leading to some pricing pressure.
So a classic case of a tough act to follow in a competitive market. But knowing Protean, they're not just sitting back and taking it right.
You know them too well. Instead of getting caught in a price war, they're cleverly shifting their focus to value-added services built on top of their existing identity infrastructure.
Ah, so playing the quality over quantity game.
Yeah.
You're talking about initiatives like eSign Pro and their API marketplace, rise with Protean, correct?
Exactly. They're strategically moving up the value chain. Think of it like this. They've laid the foundation with their basic identity services, and now they're building a whole ecosystem of sophisticated solutions on top, especially for businesses.
So becoming the one-stop shop for all things digital identity and data. Now that's a power play.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into the really exciting stuff. Protean's new ventures. They've been making waves in open digital ecosystems, particularly with their involvement in the Open Network for Digital Commerce, or ONDC for short.
ONDC is the buzzword in India's e-commerce scene right now. Imagine a world where any seller can connect with any buyer regardless of the platform they're on. That's the vision, and Protean is right at the heart of it.
So they're not just participating, they're shaping the future of e-commerce in India. Tell me more about their role in ONDC.
They're wearing multiple hats, which is impressive. They're providing the core technology, the nuts and bolts that power the ONDC network, think gateway and registry services.
Yeah.
But they're also building apps for sellers and buyers, making it easy for everyone to join this open network. And on top of that, they're offering ancillary services like catalog as a service, taking care of all the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Wow, so they're deeply embedded in the ONDC ecosystem. And we all know ONDC is growing like crazy, expanding into different categories. What does this mean for Protean's future?
It puts them in a prime position, no doubt. As ONDC grows, especially with its foray into open finance, the market opportunities for Protean just keep expanding. They're leveraging their expertise and technology to offer a whole suite of services.
It's like they've anticipated this digital tsunami and built themselves a surfboard. And their involvement in AgriStack further highlights their knack for being at the forefront of innovation. Can you explain what AgriStack is all about?
AgriStack is essentially a national digital infrastructure designed to revolutionize India's agricultural sector. Imagine a system where farmers, government agencies, and businesses can seamlessly share data, promoting transparency and efficiency across the entire ecosystem. That's the vision. And Protean has played a key role in developing its core infrastructure.
So they're not just focusing on urban digitalization, they're bringing the power of technology to rural India as well.
Exactly, and it's perfectly aligned with the government's push to modernize and empower the agricultural sector. By being involved from the get-go, Protean is establishing itself as a major player in this transformative initiative.
It's amazing how they're aligning their business strategy with India's broader digital development goals. Now let's talk about their cloud and InfoSec services. They seem to have a specific niche in mind, right?
They're all about the Made in India and Green Cloud approach. Their cloud offerings are designed to be energy efficient and locally developed, which perfectly positions them to snag government projects that prioritize these aspects.
So appealing to the patriotic and environmentally conscious sides. And they're not just stopping at government projects, right? They're also eyeing the startup and MSME sector.
Absolutely. They see a huge opportunity to provide secure and scalable cloud solutions to these businesses, which are constantly growing and evolving.
It's a smart move. By targeting these specific niches, they're setting themselves apart in a crowded market. And let's not forget about their international ambitions. They're not just content with conquering the Indian market. They're setting their sights global.
That's right. They're actively engaged in over a dozen countries, participating in numerous potential projects. Their focus is primarily on Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Africa.
So aiming to replicate the India's stack success story in other parts of the world, what's their game plan for expanding internationally?
They're all about sharing their expertise in building and implementing DPIs. They see a huge opportunity to help developing countries leapfrog their digital journeys by leveraging what they've learned in India.
It's a compelling proposition. But expanding internationally is never a cakewalk. What kind of challenges are they likely to encounter?
Oh, there are always hurdles. We're talking about navigating different regulations, cultural nuances, and of course, competition from established players in those markets. Building strong local partnerships is going to be key to their success.
So it's a long road ahead,
Yeah,
but they seem equipped to handle the bumps along the way.
absolutely. And their track record in India gives them a solid playbook to work with.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's not forget about the shiny new products they launched this past quarter. We're talking about their foray into open finance and their blockchain-powered platform, Protean Life.
Ah, yes, those are definitely worth exploring. Their open finance stack is all about making financial services more accessible, Imagine being able to discover loans, insurance, and mutual funds all through your favorite app. That's the goal. And they're leveraging the account aggregator framework to make data sharing seamless.
So bringing the power of open finance to the masses. And what about Protean Life? That sounds intriguing.
It's a game changer for the world of philanthropy. Protean Life uses blockchain technology to bring transparency and efficiency to charitable giving. Think of it as a platform where corporations, foundations, and even individuals can collaborate on social and environmental initiatives and track the impact of their contributions in a secure and verifiable way.
Wow, so they're not just building technology, they're using it to make a real difference in the world.
That's what makes them so fascinating. They're not just a company, they're a force for positive change.
Okay, I think it's time to pause for a breath.
Oh,
We've covered a lot of ground from their financial performance to their ambitious new ventures.
we have. But there's still so much more to unpack. In part 2, we'll delve deeper into their strategic direction and what their latest moves reveal about their long-term vision.
Can't wait. We'll be back soon with part 2, so stay tuned.
Welcome back. It's fascinating to see how Protean is building on their strengths and venturing into new areas that are shaping India's digital growth story.
Right. In part 1, we talked about their impressive financials, their dominance in existing markets, and their bold moves into areas like ONDC and AgriStack. Now, I'm curious about the bigger picture. What does their strategic direction tell us about their long-term vision? Are they just reacting to the market, or are they driving the change?
I think it's safe to say they're driving the change. Look at their investments in digital public infrastructure, both domestically and internationally. They're not just providing services, they're shaping the very foundation of India's digital economy. And they're aiming to do the same globally.
So they're not just playing the game. They're rewriting the rules. It sounds like they're betting big on the transformative power of digital public infrastructure.
Exactly. And their track record suggests they're pretty good at placing those bets. Their involvement in ONDC and AgriStack puts them at the forefront of 2 of India's most significant digital initiatives.
It's almost like they have a crystal ball predicting where the digital puck is going to be.
Yeah.
And they're not just skating to where the puck is, they're bringing the whole rink with them.
Well put. Their international expansion efforts, while still early, really highlight their ambition to become a global leader in DPI development and implementation.
It's exciting to see an Indian company taking such a proactive role, not just within India, but on the world stage. Okay, let's talk about their focus on vertical integration. They're building these value-added services on top of their existing infrastructure, particularly in the identity and data spaces. Is this a defensive move, or are they seeing a bigger opportunity?
It's definitely a strategic play, a way of moving up the value chain. Think about it. They've built this incredibly robust infrastructure, and now they're leveraging it to offer more sophisticated, more integrated solutions. It's a smart way to differentiate themselves in a market that's getting more and more competitive.
So they're not just competing on price, they're offering a whole ecosystem of solutions.
Exactly. Take eSign Pro, for instance. It's not just about offering basic electronic signatures anymore. They're providing a complete digital documentation suite that streamlines workflows and enhances security for businesses.
And their API marketplace, Rise with Protean, is another great example of this vertical integration strategy.
Absolutely. It's all about creating an ecosystem where businesses can seamlessly integrate Protean services into their own platforms and applications. They're essentially becoming the one-stop shop for all things digital identity and data.
It's brilliant, really. They're making it easier for businesses to go digital. And in doing so, they're locking in those customers for the long haul. Okay, here's what I find fascinating. They're involved in these massive population scale projects like ONDC and AgriStack, but they're also launching these innovative, cutting-edge products like Protean Life and their open finance stack. How do they manage to balance these seemingly contradictory priorities?
It's a testament to their adaptability and their willingness to embrace innovation. They have this core set of capabilities and expertise that they've honed over years of working in the e-governance sector, and they're using that foundation to both scale existing services and develop entirely new solutions.
So they're not afraid to experiment and push the boundaries, but they're also staying true to their core competencies.
Exactly. They're strategic about it. They're focusing on areas where they have a clear competitive advantage, but they're also willing to take calculated risks.
It's a delicate balancing act, and they seem to be pulling it off flawlessly. Now let's talk about their financial performance. Despite some headwinds in identity services, they're consistently growing their revenue and profitability.
Their financial performance is a clear reflection of their strategic clarity. They're managing their core businesses efficiently while also investing in these new ventures that have the potential to become major growth drivers.
It's like they're playing both offense and defense, ensuring they're well-positioned for long-term success.
And their strong balance sheet gives them the financial flexibility to pursue these ambitious plans. They're not resting on their laurels. They're constantly looking for ways to evolve and grow, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in digital governance.
It's inspiring to see a company with such a clear vision and the execution capabilities to back it up. Speaking of their global ambitions, they're actively pursuing projects in several countries, particularly in developing regions. What is their approach to international expansion? Are they simply exporting the India stack, or are they taking a more tailored approach?
It's more nuanced than just exporting the India stack. While their expertise in building and implementing DPIs is their core offering, they're also adapting their approach to the specific needs of each market. They understand that what works in India might not work exactly the same way in, say, Southeast Asia or Africa.
So they're bringing their expertise to the table, but they're also listening to the needs of the local markets.
Exactly. They're building partnerships, understanding the regulatory landscape, and ensuring that their solutions are culturally relevant. It's a smart approach, and it shows they're in it for the long haul.
It's fascinating to see them applying their knowledge and experience to solve global challenges. But let's be real. Expanding internationally comes with its own set of risks. What are some of the hurdles they're likely to face?
Every new market presents unique challenges. We're talking about navigating different regulatory environments, understanding cultural nuances, and building trust with local stakeholders. And let's not forget about competition. They're going to be going up against established players who already have a strong foothold in these markets.
So it's not going to be a walk in the park. But they seem to have a good grasp of the challenges and a plan to address them.
Their success in India has given them valuable experience in overcoming these types of obstacles. They've learned how to build partnerships, adapt to different contexts, and execute their vision effectively.
Before we move on, I want to take a step back and reflect on the bigger picture. Protean isn't just a company. They're a force shaping the future of digital governance. What does this mean for everyday citizens, businesses, and even governments? What are the implications of this DPI-centric world they're helping to create?
It's a profound shift. Digital public infrastructure has the potential to level the playing field, empower individuals, and drive economic growth on a massive scale.
Right.
For citizens, it means easier access to essential services, more transparency from their governments, and greater control over their own data. For businesses, it means new opportunities, reduced costs, and a more level playing field. And for governments, it means more efficient service delivery, better decision-making, and ultimately a more responsive and accountable relationship with their citizens.
It sounds almost utopian, this vision of a DPI-powered future. But are there potential downsides? What are the risks we need to be aware of?
Like any powerful technology, DPIs need to be implemented responsibly and ethically. We need to be vigilant about data security, privacy, and inclusivity. And we need to make sure that these systems are designed to benefit everyone, not just a select few. We need to guard against these systems being captured by special interests or used for purposes that weren't intended.
So it's not just about building the technology, it's about building it, right?
Absolutely. Robust governance frameworks, public engagement, and constant vigilance are crucial. We need to have open conversations about the ethical implications of these technologies and ensure that they're used for good.
It's a complex landscape, but it's exciting to be part of this conversation. And it's companies like Protean that are leading the charge, paving the way for a more inclusive and equitable digital future.
They're certainly a company worth watching. They represent the best of India's digital aspirations, technological prowess, entrepreneurial spirit, and a commitment to social impact.
Okay, I think that's a good place to pause for now. We've explored Protean's strategic direction, their vertical integration strategy, their global ambitions, and the broader implications of their DPI-centric approach.
In Part 3, we'll analyze their competitive landscape, assess their risks and opportunities, and offer some concluding thoughts on their future prospects.
Can't wait. We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. It's been an incredible journey exploring Protean Egov Technologies Limited.
We've gone from PAN cards to pensions, from ONDC to AgriStack, from India to the world. Protean's story is definitely one for the books.
It is. Now let's get real about the challenges they face. They're not operating in a vacuum. They've got competition both from established giants and those nimble startups nipping at their heels.
You're right. In their core sectors like tax services, pension services, and identity services, they're facing off against a mix of domestic and international players. Some are laser-focused on specific niches, while others are these sprawling conglomerates.
So it's a battle of David and Goliath, all playing out in the digital arena.
Exactly. And each segment has its own unique dynamics. Take tax services. Protean's the dominant player. But there are other PAN card providers vying for a slice of that pie.
And in pension services, while they're leading the charge as the CRA for MPS and APY, more players are entering the market as India's pension sector expands.
Right? Then there's identity services, where it's a much more fragmented landscape. Tons of providers are offering e-sign, eKYC, and other identity verification services.
So with all this competition, how does Protean stand out? What's their secret sauce?
One of their biggest advantages is their deep understanding of the Indian e-governance ecosystem. They've been playing this game for over 2 decades, building strong relationships with government agencies and establishing a rock-solid reputation for reliability and expertise.
It's like they've got this home field advantage.
They do, and they've used it to secure those dominant positions in key markets like PAN card issuance and pension record keeping. But they're not just relying on past successes. Their commitment to innovation is another major strength.
You're talking about their investments in cutting-edge technologies like blockchain and those innovative products like Protean Life and their open finance stack.
Exactly. They're not just sitting back and watching the world change. They're actively shaping it. That's what gives them an edge, especially as they venture into these new frontiers like open digital ecosystems and international DPIs.
It's a smart strategy because in the world of technology, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. Okay, let's talk about the potential roadblocks. Every company faces challenges, even one as successful as Protean. What are some of the risks they need to navigate?
Regulatory uncertainty is a big one. India's digital landscape is constantly evolving, and government policies can shift quickly. That can impact their business operations and their bottom line.
That's a valid concern. They're heavily reliant on government contracts, so any regulatory hiccups could disrupt their revenue streams.
Right. And as they expand into new territories like open finance and international DPIs, they face execution risks. Scaling these new ventures while keeping their core businesses running smoothly requires meticulous planning and flawless execution.
There's no room for error. Their success hinges on their ability to deliver on their promises, both to clients and investors.
Absolutely. Reputation is everything in their industry. Any missteps could tarnish their hard-earned credibility.
Now let's look at the flip side. What opportunities is Protean poised to capitalize on? Despite the risk, they're operating in a market with immense growth potential.
The continued growth of digitalization in India is a massive opportunity. As more people and businesses come online, the demand for their services, especially in areas like identity verification and digital payments, is only going to skyrocket.
It's like they're surfing a wave that's only getting bigger.
And their involvement in DPIs like ONDC and AgriStack puts them right at the crest of that wave. Another huge opportunity is the growing adoption of cloud computing in India.
Their focus on Made in India and green cloud solutions aligns perfectly with the government's push for data localization and sustainability.
It does. They're well positioned to capture a big chunk of this growing market, both in the public and private sectors. And let's not forget about their international expansion efforts. The global market for DPIs is still relatively young, and they have the potential to become a major player.
It's an ambitious goal, but they have the experience, the technology, and the financial resources to make it happen.
They do. And their early success in securing projects and partnerships in several countries suggests they're on the right track.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Protean Egov Technologies Limited, what's the takeaway? They're clearly a company in motion, embracing innovation, expanding into new markets, and shaping the future of digital governance.
They are, and their success will hinge on their ability to navigate a complex and ever-changing landscape, balancing ambition with execution and staying ahead of the technology curve.
It's fascinating to see how they've established themselves as leaders in India's digital transformation, and even more exciting to see them taking their expertise global. Their story is a testament to the power of innovation, strategic vision, and a commitment to making a positive impact. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey exploring Protean Egov Technologies Limited. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and stay engaged in the world of digital innovation.